like most people in this country, I want to see more action on climate change. In fact, Labour's got a bold and ambitious plan that would deliver hugely towards achieving net zero, but also helping bring down people's bills, deliver our energy security, by racing towards net zero by being a green energy superpower. And I think those are the sorts of solutions our country needs. I think what some of those tactics and some of those protesters do is actually really self-defeating. Because I think most people in this country are worried about their bills. They can see the argument as to how building more renewable energy, new nuclear, expanding Britain's energy, domestic energy supply and production would deliver more jobs and bring down bills and help achieve net zero. I think the argument's won, certainly as far as Labour's concerned. And when people go about disrupting other people's lives, rather than building a bigger tent with more supporters, they end up alienating people. And that's my problem with their tactics.
Presumably you support peaceful protests, though. So what's your message to them this weekend?
I think there are ways of grabbing attention without causing disruption to people's lives. And when they do that, they actually alienate people and push people away from a cause which I think is crucial to our country's future, to our planet's future. So, any campaigner worth their salt will be thinking, how do we build the tent of support? How do we grow the coalition to force decision makers into action? That's how pressure groups can be most effective. What they're doing, it may sometimes grab the headlines, but often for all the wrong reasons and alienate people from the cause. And that's surely not what they want.
And briefly, if you can, because you've got lots of other things to talk about, are you worried about the London Marathon being disrupted?
I really hope it's not. People train for the London Marathon, whether they are elite athletes or people who are doing it to set a personal target or to raise money for brilliant causes right across the country. So don't disrupt the marathon. It goes right back to the heart of what I was just saying. Marathon disruption, it might dominate the headlines. It will turn people off in terms of the cause and let down all of those runners and their supporters cheering them on who want a great day out and an opportunity to raise loads of money for good causes.
And I should say Extinction Rebellion says that they won't. We'll see what other groups decide over the weekend. But let's move to what we have as our top story today. And this is the Prime Minister deliberating about Dominic Raab, his deputy's future, having received the report that's been drawn up over the allegations of bullying against him. What do you make of the fact that we've had no decision, even though, as we understand it, the Prime Minister's had this report since yesterday morning?
Well, it tells us there's certainly a case to answer. I've got to say, Rishi Sunak's got no one to blame but himself. These allegations were hanging in the air when Dominic Raab was appointed Deputy Prime Minister. Indeed, I would argue Dominic Raab shouldn't have been given the job on the basis he was on a sun lounger during the evacuation of Kabul when diplomats and members of our armed forces were working really hard to evacuate people from Afghanistan. So I don't think Dominic Raab should be in the job. And I think, the day that Rishi Sunak has spent deliberating on the future of one person is a day he should have spent deliberating on how to tackle the biggest crisis in the history of the NHS, or how to deliver justice on our streets, or how to tackle the cost of living crisis, which is soaring in terms of food prices and the pain in people's pockets.
Well, there are clearly a lot of issues that he is dealing with. However, it's not unreasonable, is it, for him to take his time over what is no doubt a detailed report. After all, Adam Tolley has spent 5 months drawing it together, and it also involves the career of somebody he works with. It's fair enough that he should take his time, isn't it?
I think certainly the process has got to be fair to the individual and to the people who put in complaints, certainly. My anxiety is that what Rishi Sunak is deliberating on isn't the substance of the report, but the politics of this. Whether or not he's going to stand by what he said outside Downing Street about restoring trust and standards in public life, or whether or not he's going to be strong enough to stand up to people in his own party who would inevitably upset if he sacks Dominic Raab. And I do think Rishi Sunak's got form for weakness. He appointed Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, even though she had been fired for a national security breach. This is not a strong leader able to stand up to the right of his party.
Would you like to see the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, Laurie Magnus, take a look at this report?
That may be helpful to the Prime Minister in informing his judgment, but ultimately the Prime Minister's got to make a decision. He can't keep on dithering and delaying or passing the buck to someone else. Ultimately, it's on him. It's his judgment as to who he points to high office and who he dismisses. And I'm afraid he's got a really poor track record of putting people who are not good enough in some of the highest offices in the land.
Well, Dominic Raab has maintained, as far as this issue is concerned, that he's behaved professionally throughout. As we understand it, he continues to maintain that. Do you think you've seen any evidence to dispute that?
Well, obviously, I don't have the pleasure, if that's the right word, of working with Dominic Raab in the Ministry of Justice. But those allegations, as I say, were hanging around when he was first appointed. I do think we need to take issues of bullying in the workplace seriously. And I've never worked in an environment where if people are bullied, you get the best out of them. Any good leader, any good manager will tell you that the best workplaces, the most productive workplaces, are those where people feel supported, motivated, inspired to do their very best work, and that never happens in an environment where they're subject to bullying or intimidation.